glasses, Alexis.
Thank you. I love these glasses.
And I love them too, by the way. The Michael Jackson estate, part 2, Paris versus the executors. 17 years after Michael Jackson died, his daughter, Paris, is in a Los Angeles courtroom fighting the men who run his estate. She has received $65 million in benefits. She stands to inherit hundreds of millions more, and she still cannot get a straight answer about where the money went. This is what the absence of accountability structure looks like 17 years later. And the biopic angle is devastating. The executor of Michael Jackson's estate cast a celebrity to play himself in a $150 million film financed by the estate. Paris Jackson is asking in court who authorized that. That is the exact accountability question a mandatory annual accounting provision would have answered before it even became a lawsuit. So the executor hired a famous movie star to play his role.
Michael
His
Jackson
character.
role.
No,
his own
the
role?
executor.
Oh, for God's sakes.
It's his nephew that plays Michael Jackson, Jafar.
Okay, got it.
So the executor and I'm curious to find out who that famous.
I don't know. When will we find out? When
I
the
have
movie
to
comes
look.
out? Yeah, you do. That's true.
I haven't done.
I know.
Okay, Paris Jackson was 11 years old when her father died. She is 28 now. In the 17 years between those two moments, she has lived inside a legal battle over the estate of her father that her father left her. In episode 2, we go inside that battle, what Paris found, what the executors did, what $148 million in compensation looks like from the perspective of a daughter who has been asking for an accounting for years, and what every beneficiary of every trust needs to understand about their rights.
Yep. This is very current, what's happening.
Yeah, of course, it's was just her birthday, April 3rd, so she just turned 28, and she has been in the battle her whole adult life.
Yeah, that's true. It's very devastating to come, you lose a parent, you lose everything. In the months of April 2026, Paris Jackson filed papers in Los Angeles Superior Court accusing the executors of her father's estate of using Michael Jackson's own money to bully her, to attack her. Executors are using her father's money to bully and belittle her in the court filings, including calling her statement sexist when they described her strutting into the hearing and calling themselves the grown-ups, and to fund a media campaign designed to undermine her credibility
while she asks questions that any beneficiary has the legal right to ask.
She just turned 28 years old. She has been in the fight since she
was old enough to understand what an estate was. And the estate's response to her most recent filing, as reported in court documents, was to call her objections a profound waste of the court's time. A $3 billion estate calling a beneficiary's request for transparency a waste of time.
That's incredible. Absolutely.
Last week in episode 1, we told you how the Michael Jackson estate became the most cautionary tale in American legal history. The unfunded trust, the $500 million in debt, the 17 years in probate court. Most recent filing, April 14th, 2026, 3 days ago, Paris filed new documents accusing the executors of using her father's money to mock and belittle her and calling their behavior unacceptable. The Michael Jackson biopic, Michael starring Jafar Jackson, drops soon, and Paris is publicly questioning the production decisions while simultaneously fighting the executors in court. The timing is explosive. Today, we go inside the courtroom. We follow Paris. We look at what she found and what finding it has cost her. Because this is not just a celebrity story. This is the story of every beneficiary who has ever been told to trust the process, while the process consumes what they were supposed to inherit.
I'm Alexis Nassif.
And I am Natalie Francine. This is Celebrity Estate Interrupted, Wealth, War, and Real Estate. The Civil War, Episode 2. For women, by women,
and men too.
I got the words confused a little bit, but I was trying to just
You did good. I know, it's important. We're going to have a financial education here.
Yeah, we're going to have a big education.
Yeah, and always remember, everyone, we're not accountants or attorneys. This is just through our experience and to what's happening in today's time.
And it's strategic advice.
Very strategic, very important.
To protect yourself.
Yep.
True crime moment. John Branca is one of the most powerful entertainment attorneys in the history of the music business. He represented Michael Jackson for decades, negotiating the purchase of the ATV catalog, structuring the Sony ATV deal, and managing Jackson's complex financial relationships. John McClain is a veteran music executive who worked with Jackson throughout his career. When Michael Jackson died in 2009, deeply in debt, with an unfunded trust and a family in shock, these two men became the co-executors of the most complex celebrity estate in American history. What they did with that responsibility is either a masterclass in estate management or a cautionary tale about unchecked power, depending entirely on who you ask.
Let me start with what is not in dispute. John Branca and John McClain took an estate that was $500 million in debt and transformed it into a $3 billion enterprise. That is a fact. The MJ Broadway musical, the Las Vegas residency licensing, the Sony catalog safe, the biopic, the streaming revenue. By any financial measure, they did their job extraordinarily well. They really did.
And also not in dispute, they have been compensated extraordinarily well for doing it. According to court filings obtained by Paris Jackson's legal team, the executors received more than $148 million in total compensation between 2009 and 2021. In 2021 alone, John Branca received $7.9 million on a $3 billion estate. Is that reasonable? That is the question at the center of the Civil War.
From a legal standpoint, executor compensation in California is governed by statute. The probate code sets out what executors are entitled to receive based on the value of the estate. From an estate of this complexity and this value, the statutory compensation would be significant. And executors can petition in court for extraordinary compensation for services that go beyond normal estate administration. The question is not whether they were compensated. The question is whether every payment was properly disclosed, properly approved, and properly documented, as California probate law requires.
Absolutely.
And what about those gifts?
And what about those gifts? True crime moment. The Civil War inside the Michael Jackson estate did not begin with a dramatic confrontation. It began with a disclosure. In 2025, for the first time, the estate released financial documents related to 2018. Those documents revealed something that Paris Jackson's legal team immediately flagged: $625,000 in bonuses distributed to several law firms, payments that had not been disclosed to the beneficiaries. Cars, luxury watches, gifts to colleagues and associates paid from the estate without prior notification to Michael Jackson's children. I want to be precise about what Paris Jackson is alleging because precision matters here. She is not alleging that the estate stole from her. She is alleging that payments were made, bonuses, gifts, fees, without the transparency that California probate law requires. She is alleging that when she asked to see the documentation for those payments, she was met with delays, dismissals, and ultimately a media campaign she describes as a bullying operation funded by her own inheritance.
The estate's position is equally clear. They have called her claims meritless. They have pointed out that Paris has already received approximately $65 million in benefits from the estate and stands to inherit hundreds of millions more. They have said in court filings that her objections are a profound waste of the court's time. Those are strong words to use about a beneficiary asking for an accounting. That's ridiculous.
The war. Every beneficiary of every trust has the legal right to an accounting, not a summary, not a selective disclosure, a complete accounting of how the assets of the trust have been managed and how they have been spent. That right exists regardless of how well the trust has performed, regardless of how much the beneficiary has already received, regardless of whether the trustee or executor believes the request is reasonable. It is a fundamental legal right, and it exists specifically to prevent the kind of opacity that creates suspicion and litigation.
Yep, and there's definitely a timeline how the Civil War escalated.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm still having a hard time with my trust.
Well, you'll get there, and I think that this puts a fire underneath you.
Most definitely.
Because you've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah, years.
But now you're really talking about it.
Yeah, I am. I have to get there eventually.
You'll get there.
I hope so.
You'll get there before it escalates.
I hope so.
True crime moment. 2021, the death of Howard Weitzman, the powerful attorney who had managed most of the estate's affairs, created a vacuum. Weitzman was known for keeping peace between the executors and the family. When he died, the dynamic shifted. Paris Jackson began asking more pointed questions about the estate's finances. The executors began responding more defensively. The stage was set.
Sure was. Big stage.
2022, the estate released its first significant financial disclosure, documents related to 2018. For the first time, Paris Jackson could see in detail how the estate's money had been spent. What she saw prompted her first formal legal challenge.
2024, the estate released additional documents. Paris's legal team identified $625,000 in bonuses to law firms. Payments she alleged were made without proper disclosure to beneficiaries. She filed formal objections. The estate fired back, calling her objections nonsensical and accusing her of running a media campaign for her own benefit.
Early 2026, Paris filed papers challenging specific payments, including what she described as gifts of cars and luxury watches to colleagues and associates of the executors. The estate denied these characterizations. The court scheduled a full hearing.
March 24th, 2026, the court ruled in Paris's favor. The estate must disclose 4 years of financial documents, 2022 through 2025. The judge also ordered the estate to adhere to a disclosure schedule going forward. Paris's team called it a positive step. The estate pushed back on releasing 2025 documents the year the biopic was filmed until April 2027.
April 8th, 2026, Paris filed new paperwork accusing the executors of using her father's money to bully and attack her, of funding a media narrative against her, of making statements that were sexist and patronizing. The war is not over. It has not slowed down. If anything, it has intensified. And as of April 13th, Paris was back in court filing additional paperwork. Michael Jackson's biopic is getting ready to release. The estate has invested in it heavily,
Yep.
and Paris is trying to find out who authorized that money, who gave them the authority to use that money to fund this film. The executors are refusing to disclose anything until a year after the film is released. They say that's normal behavior, releasing information about the release of the movie a year after its release date. The executors said the timeline was standard. The court will ultimately decide.
It will. That's a big lesson here. Every beneficiary needs to know what's going on in accountability, transparency. Most importantly,
Very important.
It is. You have to do it, man. That's the way it goes. And a lot of people don't care.
And the beneficiaries need to know what their rights are. They need to be able to understand what rights they have as a beneficiary.
A lot of people don't bother to check that out, and they need to. It's very easy. Just
contact your attorney, an independent attorney.
The Paris-Jackson case teaches every beneficiary in America something they absolutely need to know. So let me be direct, and Natalie will finish this.
As a beneficiary of a trust or an estate, you have the right to an accounting. In California, Probate Code Section 16062 requires trustees to provide beneficiaries with an accounting at least annually. That accounting must include a statement of assets and liabilities, all receipts and disbursements, and a statement of the trustee's compensation. You have the right to request this in writing, formally, and the trustee is legally required to provide it.
You have the right to object to the accounting. If in the review, the accounting and belief payments were improper, you have the right to challenge them in court. That is not disloyalty to the person who created the trust. It is the exercise of a legal right that exists specifically to protect you.
You have the right to independent legal counsel. A beneficiary who is uncertain about whether an estate is being administered correctly has the right, and frankly, the obligation to themselves to hire an attorney who represents only their interests, not the estate's attorney, not a shared attorney. Independent counsel.
And you have the right to petition the court. If a trustee or executor refuses to provide accounting refuses to respond to legitimate questions or makes decisions you believe are outside their authority, you can petition the probate court for relief. That is exactly what Paris-Jackson did. And on March 24th, 2026, the court agreed with her. Thank God.
Yeah,
About time.
It's been going on for an awfully long time.
Yeah.
I want to be fair to the executors because fairness is how we learn from these cases.
Yeah.
John Bronca and John McClain took a $500 million liability and turned it into a $3 billion enterprise. That is extraordinary.
It is.
That deserves acknowledgement. But extraordinary financial performance does not exempt an estate from the obligation of transparency.
The civil war inside the Michael Jackson estate could have been prevented, not by performing differently, but by communicating differently. Annual accountings provided proactively. A family meeting, even after Michael's death, where the executors sat down with Catherine, with Paris, with Prince, and Biggie, and said, here is what we have, here is what we owe, here is our plan. Here is how you can hold accountability. Transparency is not weakness in a state administration. Transparency is the only thing that prevents the litigation from happening.
The war. The lesson of Paris Jackson's legal battle is not that executors are untrustworthy. The lesson is that trust in the human sense is not a substitute for accountability structures. The most loyal, most capable executor in the world should welcome the obligation to provide regular accountings, because that obligation protects them as much as it protects the beneficiaries. Every dollar properly accounted for is a dollar that cannot be questioned later. Every decision documented and disclosed is a decision that cannot become the basis for a lawsuit 17 years after the fact. How about that noise?
I like that. It's very good. And we go to the big thing.
The question. The big 20-year question.
20-year question.
Well, that's a big question that we're asking in our series, and I think it's a good one to make people think about where they anticipate themselves in 20 years.
Yeah. Oh, God.
What they anticipate for their wealth.
That's right.
You know?
And their beneficiaries.
Paris Jackson was 11 years old when her father died. She is now 28. She has spent more than half of her life navigating a legal system that was supposed to protect what her father left for her. She has been called difficult. She has been called manipulative. She has been told her objections are a profound waste of the court's time. She kept asking. And on March 24th, 2026, a judge told her she had the right to ask.
The women who protect their inheritance and their children's inheritance are not the ones who trusted the process blindly. They are the ones who understood the process well enough to know what questions to ask and ask them. Paris Jackson is 28. She has $65 million and the right to hundreds of millions more. And she has spent her entire adult life fighting for the transparency that should have been built into the structure from the beginning. Build the transparency in now before it is needed and it's too late.
Next week, we leave the Jackson estate and walk into a church in Michigan where Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, died without a will. And then 3 of them showed up. One of them under a couch cushion. Episode 3, The Couch Will.
The 20-year question for this week. If you are a beneficiary of a trust right now, do you know your rights? Have you received an accounting in the last 12 months? And if the answer is no, what are you doing tomorrow to change that? Do something. Go to an attorney.
I am Natalie Francine. This is Celebrity Estate Interrupted.
And I'm Alexis Nassif. This is Wealth, War, and Real Estate.
For women, by women. See you next time.
Next time is coming before you know it.
Absolutely. And, stay tuned with the Jackson case because there's a lot going on here. And we're trying to bring you the most current information, but it is changing so rapidly. So it is a definite situation to follow, especially because of the amount of money and the players that are involved.
Exactly.
And the new movie coming out, and we need to find out more about this movie because $150 million, and I'm curious to know
Who's
who
playing it?
Bronca hired to play his role.
Amazing. I mean, can you imagine spending that kind of money?
But good for Paris, going forward, standing up for her rights, and continuing to pursue what her father wanted for her.
What her right is as a beneficiary
Absolutely.
and a daughter.
It'll be fun. We'll keep you posted in
Absolutely.
it too.
And how do you like my glasses?
Oh, I think your glasses are fabulous.
I know, I love them.
Maybe you should wear a different pair of glasses each episode.
I think I will.
But you have to make sure that
I can. Well, these I can read.
Yeah.
You know, and I can see.
Yeah, I
the
like
other
those.
ones are dark.
I like those a
But
lot.
I'll try them.
I think I should get some new glasses.
Yes, you should. You should start wearing your aviator glasses.
I need to get more glasses.
Exactly.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Hey, you could always sponsor us for glasses.
Oh God, yes, and we'll
Anybody-
wear them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the glasses. They're great.